John, we series of startling prophetic visions, mysterious symbols, frightening creatures, and ominous images warning of events yet future. John's writings came to be known as the Book of Revelation, the cryptic final chapter of the New Testament. But is Revelation merely a collection of ancient writings impossible to understand? Or do these prophetic messages have meaning for our future? Join us next on The World Tomorrow as we present Unlocking the Book of Revelation.
This week on The World Tomorrow, Richard Ames.
To many, the last book of the Bible, the Apocalypse or the Book of Revelation, is one of the least understood and most perplexing books in all the world of literature. Many theologians have been puzzled by it. Some haven't even taken it seriously, while others have dismissed it as the delusions of a religious fanatic, or at best the confused scribblings of a senile old man. Others have been more respectful, but they've admitted they couldn't understand it or explain it. For example, there's Adam Clarke's famous commentary on the Bible. In his introduction to the book of Revelation, he wrote, "I had resolved for a considerable time not to meddle with this book, because I foresaw that I could produce nothing satisfactory on it. Today we'll take a new look at this puzzling book. I want to show you that it can be understood. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by today's program, Unlocking the Book of Revelation. As you discover that the Bible actually interprets what is written in it, you'll soon see that this mysterious book will begin to make sense. First, let's begin by getting some background. The book of Revelation was written almost 1,900 years ago in the last decade of the 1st century A.D. The author was almost certainly the Apostle John, while he was living in exile on the island of Patmos. Patmos is located off the western coast of what we know today as Turkey. The Romans used it as a penal colony for political prisoners. This was a difficult time for the Christian church. Most of the Jewish Christians of the time had earlier fled Jerusalem. The Roman army had besieged the city and left it sacked and burned. When the Emperor Titus died, he was replaced by his younger brother Domitian. Domitian began to violently persecute the church, and it was during his reign that the Apostle John was exiled. And so it was on this lonely island that John was given one of the most puzzling messages of the Bible. Yes, John was given this information because, contrary to popular belief, this book of Revelation isn't the revelation of John, it's the revelation to John, as we'll see. The first verse of the book makes this clear. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants, things which must shortly take place. And he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John. The book of Revelation is also known as the Apocalypse. Today, the word apocalypse in English has a very negative connotation. We associate it with disaster, doomsday, and tragedy. But the original Greek word from which our word apocalypse is derived is apocalypsis. It means to reveal or to discover what was hidden. This is what we should keep in mind when we study the book of Revelation. As we look into it, we will find that it's filled with some very turbulent events. But we'll also discover it ends on a very encouraging note of hope. The main theme of this book, as John describes it, is the sequence of events that begin to unfold before the intervention of the Messiah or the return of Jesus Christ to this earth. We pick up the story in the 5th chapter of Revelation. Here John sees a vision of God the Father in heaven. We read in verse 1, "And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals." John saw in vision a scroll similar to the scrolls of papyrus or sheepskin on which books were written in that time. But this scroll was sealed with 7 seals. They needed to be progressively broken and removed so that the scroll would be unrolled and the contents revealed. But as we see in the next few verses, no one could be found worthy to break the seals and open up this important document. In the vision, John was upset, as we read in verse 4. So I wept much, because no one was found worthy to open and read the scroll or to look at it. Then the problem is solved in verse 5. But one of the elders near God's throne said to me, Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and loose its 7 seals. This individual, also called the Lamb throughout the book of Revelation, is none other than Jesus Christ. Now we come to chapter 6, which is a pivotal chapter of the entire book. Here, Jesus Christ begins to break the seals and reveal future events. As the first 4 seals are broken, John sees a startling vision.
And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went out conquering and to conquer. When he opened the second seal, another horse, fiery red, went out. And it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. When he opened the third seal, I looked, and behold, a black horse. And he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. When he opened the fourth seal, I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth.
This vision of the legendary 4 horsemen has stirred the imagination and conjecture of both scholars and laymen alike for centuries. Can we know for certain what these symbolic horsemen mean? Must we depend only on our imagination, or is there some way we can look for an authoritative explanation of these visions? If we're to find the true meaning of these 4 horses and their riders, perhaps we should first look to the one who revealed this information. We saw in the 5th chapter of Revelation that Jesus himself was the one who stripped off the seals, concealing the book's message. But since Christ doesn't reveal the meaning within the book of Revelation, we need to look elsewhere in the Bible to see where he does reveal and explain what these symbols mean. Now, this is a very important and fundamental point in understanding the Bible. It's one of the keys that unlocks the meaning of the seals in Revelation. Jesus Christ gives us the answer in another place. We'll find it in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Toward the end of his ministry, the disciples asked Jesus about his second coming and the conditions that would precede this event. Matthew 24 and verse 3 says, Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Now the Bible shows us that Jesus knew that his disciples and those who followed in their footsteps down through the ages would be eagerly anticipating his return. He knew that they could very easily make the mistake of misinterpreting the events of the day as being evidence of his imminent return. Or, on the other hand, they could become lethargic and would not be ready at all. Either extreme would have serious consequences. So Jesus worded his answer carefully, explaining the major conditions and the sequence of events prophesied to occur before his return. What he said is an important key in understanding the book of Revelation. Now let's look at the first condition recorded in Matthew's account beginning in verse 4. And Jesus answered and said to them, Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. Now let's compare that with the first of the 4 horsemen. He comes conquering on a white horse and with a bow in his hand and a crown on his head. He comes looking like Christ, but he isn't. He's an impostor. Some, unfortunately, have confused this horseman with the appearance of Jesus Christ on a white horse in the 19th chapter of Revelation. But we need to know there are significant critical differences. In chapter 19, verse 15, Christ is pictured in possession of a sharp sword representing the true Word of God. The horseman in chapter 6 carries a bow. In verse 12 of Revelation 19, Christ is pictured wearing many crowns, but the horseman in chapter 6 is wearing only one crown. These important differences show us that the rider of the white horse in Revelation is not Jesus Christ, but represents false messiahs or leaders. Verse 24 of Matthew 24 shows us that some of these deceivers will come in Christ's name, while others will come in the name of political ideology. So Christ's message in Matthew 24, then, is to watch out for counterfeits. Now let's continue on in verse 6 of Matthew 24. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There's a second overall condition, major upheaval and war. Now do you see any similarities with Revelation 6? Remember that the second horse was red. Its rider came with a huge sword in his hand, depriving the earth of peace and causing men to kill each other. This horseman clearly represents war. Let's look further in verse 7 of Matthew 24, where there are 2 more significant events. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. Verse 8 sums up these conditions as, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Revelation 6 spoke of the third horse being black and its rider carrying balances in his hand, portraying a lack of food. This horseman represents famine. The fourth horseman rides a pale horse, representing the death that comes from pestilence and disease that follow in the wake of war and famine. So it's clear that 4 of the 7 seals of Revelation can be plainly understood by a careful reading of Matthew 24. It's not surprising, then, that Christ himself gave the key to the book of Revelation, and he did it in his last major prophetic statement before his crucifixion. What we're developing today is a solid, useful framework by which you can personally understand this seemingly mysterious book. That's why we've prepared this well-researched, informative free booklet inside the book of Revelation. This brand new booklet will help you understand more about this fascinating prophetic book of the Bible. Inside the book of Revelation will help you to understand the relevance of prophecy to our modern world. Chapter 1, News of the Future, explains how the metaphoric language in Revelation actually contains symbols that are keys to understanding the future as described in this prophetic book. Another chapter, the first 6 seals opened, gives biblical explanation to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and their terrifying rise. Here in the center of this booklet is a helpful chart that explains the 7 seals of Revelation and where each seal is first mentioned. And this chapter, The Fall of Babylon the Great, explains the meaning and symbolism of Revelation chapters 17 through 20. And the last chapter, Conclusion to the Apocalypse, shows from the Bible why the message of Revelation is so important and urgent, and why we today especially need to understand this very last book of the Bible. This free booklet inside the book of Revelation is absolutely free of charge. I'm sure it'll be of great interest to anyone studying prophecy. All you have to do to receive your free copy is write to this address. And if you're not already a subscriber to the Plain Truth magazine, we'll be sending you a free subscription for as long as you like. The Plain Truth is a magazine of understanding that deals with current events and social and family issues from a biblical perspective. I'll be offering this free literature again at the end of today's program. Now let's go a little further in unlocking the book of Revelation. An important fact to remember is that in this book, Christ revealed the message of God the Father to the Apostle John. Thus, Jesus was simply continuing what he had done while attending to his Father's work on earth. John, in his Gospel, recorded Christ saying this, "For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. Therefore, whatever I speak, just as the Father has told me, so I speak." So the Bible shows us that we can have confidence that the book of Revelation was meant to be understood, and that it has the full authority of God the Father behind it. Now, it's interesting to note that Protestant reformer John Calvin excluded it from his New Testament commentary, and Martin Luther later declared the book to be neither apostolic nor prophetic, that everyone thinks of the book whatever his spirit suggests, and even that there are many nobler books to be retained. But this prophetic book is as solid and authoritative as anything else that appears in your Bible. Yet, with its many puzzling symbols and perplexing language, there's a great deal of misunderstanding about what the book of Revelation really means. There are so many interpretations, and they can't all be right. But you don't have to be confused about what Bible prophecy means, because, as we've already seen in this program, the Bible does interpret itself. Another symbol that's puzzled many is found in chapter 13. Here John sees in vision a terrifying animal rising from the sea.
Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority.
Now, how can we possibly understand this? Well, let's remember there are other scriptures in the Bible that will help us interpret symbolic language. A vital key to understanding the book of Revelation is found in the Old Testament book of Daniel. In his last major prophecy as a human being, Jesus indicated the connection between end-time events and Daniel's writing. In Matthew 24, verse 15, Jesus was speaking of future events that will occur in and around Jerusalem at the time of the end. Jesus said, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place." Now, Daniel wrote down his prophecies several hundred years before the birth of Jesus Christ. Yet Daniel didn't understand the full implication of what he wrote. He commented at the end of his book, "Although I heard, I did not understand. Then I said, 'My Lord, what shall be the end of these things?' And he said, 'Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end.'" So Daniel was told when these events would be understood, a time in the future. Now let's notice verse 10. Daniel also tells us who will be able to understand. "Many shall be purified, made white and refined, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." And so today we can understand the explanation of that strange-looking beast in Revelation 13. It's found in Daniel chapter 7.
Daniel spoke, saying, "I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And suddenly another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. After this I looked, and there was another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
So as we can begin to see, the one composite beast of Revelation 13 contains elements of these 3 beasts. Clearly, they're all interrelated. Biblical scholars know from history that the beasts of Daniel 7 represented the successive world-ruling empires of Babylon, Persia, and Greece. Now Daniel goes on to describe a fourth beast.
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
Here we have described the same kind of beast as in Revelation 13. It's a combination of all the previous beasts, this time in the form of a fourth world-ruling empire, that of Rome. Notice the beast of Daniel 7 had 10 horns. As the Bible reveals, they represent 10 successions or revivals of the Roman Empire from the fall of Rome. Revelation 13 is simply describing the same system and its successors, culminating in a world power yet to emerge. So as we've seen, the Bible does explain its own symbols. Now before closing, let's look at one more of the visions that makes the book of Revelation so difficult to understand. You'll find it in chapter 9. Now remember, even though this was written almost 1900 years ago, it describes events that are yet in the future. What John saw was unlike anything anyone had ever seen in the 1st century A.D. So he described the vision in the language of his time. Today we would recognize what John saw, a world locked in combat with full modern-day warfare.
And he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And the shape of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle. And on their heads were crowns of something like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. They had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. And they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. And their power was to hurt men 5 months.
So as you can see, the book of Revelation and its strange symbols and imagery are not so mysterious. As you begin to understand, some fascinating and important details of the future are revealed. And it's a future that gives ultimate hope and encouragement. It looks forward to a time when the world will be at peace, and all pain and suffering will be a thing of the past. Notice this encouraging prophecy of the future in Revelation 21 and verse 4. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. There's much more we could cover, but I think you can begin to see that this last book of the Bible has great significance for our future. To help you better understand this important subject of prophecy, I'd like to once again offer you this informative free booklet inside the book of Revelation and the Plain Truth magazine. Now this booklet is well researched, and it examines the book of Revelation carefully, chapter by chapter and verse by verse. The first chapter, News of the Future, explains the metaphoric language in Revelation and how its symbols are actually keys to understanding the future as described in this prophetic book. Another chapter, the first 6 seals opened, gives the biblical explanation to the first 4 seals, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Here in the center of this booklet is a helpful chart that explains the 7 seals of Revelation and where each seal is first mentioned. And this chapter, The Fall of Babylon the Great, explains the symbolism of the awesome beasts in Revelation and in the prophecies of Daniel. It contains a helpful chart that lists the characteristics of each of the strange wild animals portrayed there and the biblical explanation of what they represent. And the last chapter, Conclusion to the Apocalypse, shows from the Bible why the message of Revelation is so important and urgent, and why we today especially need to understand the very last book of the Bible. This free booklet inside the book of Revelation is absolutely free of charge and will be of great interest to anyone studying prophecy. Be sure to request your free copy. Now, we've nothing to sell on The World Tomorrow. All of our literature is offered free of charge as a public service. There is no cost to you. Along with this booklet, if you're not already a subscriber, we'll be sending you a free subscription to the Plain Truth magazine. It's yours free for as long as you want. The Plain Truth is a magazine of understanding that keeps you up to date with important trends that are occurring in the world. Each month, the Plain Truth examines a variety of topics from social and family issues to world news and topics like the one we've covered today, all from a biblical perspective. An example is this recent article, Jerusalem, a Fire in the City of God. Throughout its long history, this ancient city has been fought over more than any other on earth. The tensions between the various factions over this holy city pose an ever-present threat to peace in the area. This article shows how Bible prophecy reveals that Jerusalem will soon become the focal point of events that will have global impact. The Plain Truth also addresses issues we must deal with in our everyday lives, such as pollution, the homeless, financial security, and the family. With articles such as these, we know you'll find the Plain Truth helpful and informative. There's no magazine like it, and there's absolutely no subscription price. It's yours free for as long as you like. So once again, be sure to request today's free literature, this booklet inside the book of Revelation, and the Plain Truth magazine. All you need to do is send your request to The World Tomorrow, Pasadena, California, 91123. That's all the address you need for today's free literature. Once again, the address is The World Tomorrow, Pasadena, California, 91123. In Canada, write to The World Tomorrow, Box 44, Station A, Vancouver, BC, V6C2M2. Now, before we close, here's a preview of what's coming up next week on The World Tomorrow. Everyone has an idea for making the world better.
Help the homeless. Just peace. Some form of peace.
Stop producing arms.
Get rid of drugs.
Just try to be nice. Make everybody honest.
The one thing you want is peace, but how do you accomplish that?
As hard as we try, we never seem to be able to create even one ideal society. Join us next week on The World Tomorrow for Utopia. Must it be an impossible dream? We hope to see you again at this same time. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Richard Ames for The World Tomorrow.
The preceding program and all literature were produced and sponsored by the Worldwide Church of God.